We have 4 kids. Choose your favorite child is like that. You would never tell yourself that you have a favorite child, even if you did. Warren Beatty has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease at the age of 86. He is a famous actor who is best known for his parts in movies like Bonnie and Clyde and Reds. This news has shocked everyone in the entertainment business and among his fans. Annette Bening, who has been married to him for more than 30 years, has to say goodbye to the man she used to know so well. Even though it's hard, she's still there for him during this tough time. How will their love story change as they go through this hard time together? Childhood. The person who would become Warren Beatty was born Henry Warren Beatty on March 30th, 1937, in Richmond, Virginia. His family was very interested in both school and the arts when he was growing up. His mother, Kathlyn MacLean Beaty, had been a teacher, and his father, Owens Beatty, ran a school. Early on, Warren's life was formed by his strong academic background. However, it was the artistic side of his family that had the most profound effect on him. A big part of Warren's life was his sister Shirley MacLean. Shirley was already on her way to fame as an actress and dancer when Warren was still in school. She was 4 years older than him. Seeing her become famous made him want to become a performer too. From a young age, he was always interested in movies and the thought of being on camera. Like seeing his sister on stage and screen, he thought he could do the same thing. Warren wasn't just exposed to the arts by watching his sister when he was young. They helped him follow his dreams of becoming an actor and musician. During school, he played the piano and was interested in acting, putting on shows at his school. He became interested in acting at a young age, and this interest would guide his choices and help him get a job in Hollywood. Starting a career? Warren Beatty went to Northwestern University in Illinois after finishing from high school. He quickly learned, though, that college wasn't the right fit for him. He was too interested in acting to stay in school for another year, so he quit to focus on acting full-time. That's when he moved to New York City, which was the center of American theater and TV at the time. Beatty learned how to be an actress in New York with the great Stella Adler, who had also worked with famous people like Marlon Brando. Warren got better at what he did and was ready for his big break thanks to this tough training. Not long after that, he started getting jobs, starting with parts on TV. The first show Beatty was in on Broadway was A Loss of Roses in 1959. But even though the play didn't do well, his act got him jobs in Hollywood. Warren Beatty's first big movie part was in Splendor in the Grass, which came out in 1961 and starred Natalie Wood. The movie, which was directed by Elia Kazan, did well at the box office and with critics. Beatty got a lot of praise for his role as Bud Stamper, a young man who was in a tough sexual and emotional situation. His performance made him become a rising star in Hollywood. He won the Golden Globe for Best New Star of the Year for his part in Splendor in the Grass. He was able to take on bigger jobs after this early success, and it was the start of a long and important career in the movie business. Become a Hollywood star. Warren Beatty became a big star in Hollywood in the late 1960s and stayed that way through the 1970s. After getting his big break in Splendor in the Grass, he quickly became known as both a great actress and a creative director. During this time, Bonnie and Clyde and other projects helped shape his career. These movies showed how influential Beatty was becoming in Hollywood as an actor, producer, and director. Beatty made a big step forward in 1967 when he produced and starred in Bonnie and Clyde. The movie is about Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, two famous bank robbers who were played by Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty. Beatty's career took a big turn with this project because it was his first big job as a director behind the camera. He had a lot of input into every part of making the movie, from choosing Arthur, Pennsylvania as the director to shaping the movie's tone and style. For its time, Bonnie and Clyde was a big deal. People, especially younger people in the late 1960s, liked it because it had violence, romance, and a daring spirit. Even though reviewers had mixed feelings at first, the movie did well at the box office and is now seen as a classic. Also, it was up for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Wilder. Not only did Bonnie and Clyde make him a bigger star in Hollywood, but it also showed that he could change the direction of a project from the back. After Bonnie and Clyde became a hit, Beatty continued to make movies that people liked. During the 1970s, he carefully chose the parts he would play, having roles in movies like Heaven Can Wait 1978, McCabe and Mrs. Miller 1971, and Shampoo 1975. He did more than one thing for many of these projects, like playing, producing, and sometimes directing. This showed that he wanted to be creatively in charge of his work. Back then, this wasn't something that often happened with Hollywood actors, but Beatty's desire to be involved in every part of making movies became one of the things that made him stand out. In 1981, with the Reds, Beatty reached the next big point in his career. This historical drama was a big and personal project for Beatty, who directed, produced, co-wrote, and acted in it. On Reds, the story of American reporter John Reed and his part in the Russian Revolution is told. With a big cast and a lot of complicated historical material, the movie was a huge project. Many critics and moviegoers agree that Reds was a financial and critical success, which shows how dedicated Beaty was to the project. It was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, and Beaty won the award for Best Director, making him one of Hollywood's biggest stars. From the late 1970s to the early 1980s, Warren Beatty was more than just a well-known actor. People respected him for his work both in front of and behind the camera. He was a creative freak. At the time, he was one of the most important people in Hollywood because he could play, direct, and produce at the same time. Dick Tracy. One of Warren Beatty's most big projects was the movie Dick Tracy, which came out in 1990. Chester Gould made the popular comic strip detective in the 1930s, which the movie was based on. Beaty, who both directed and acted in the movie, had a clear idea of how he wanted the character to look and act on screen. He tried to stay true to the very bright and silly style of the original comic strip, but with the level of detail and production value of a current blockbuster. People liked how bold and different Dick Tracy's visual style was from other movies at the time. Beaty used a small set of colors that were similar to the comic strip's bright basic colors. The outfits, makeup, and film sets all helped make the world feel like it was straight out of a comic book. This one-of-a-kind style of art helped people remember and recognize Dick Tracy. But it wasn't just the pictures that stood out. Madonna, Al Pacino, and Dustin Hoffman were just a few of the famous people who were in the movie. The movie did well with both critics and audiences. It made more than $160 million around the world and was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 3, including Best Art Direction and Best Makeup. Critics praised Beaty's work to keep the tone of the comic strip while making it more relevant to today's readers. The movie also had a long effect on pop culture, leading other movies to try more creative ways of adapting comic books. Beaty's Dick Tracy showed that a movie based on a comic book could be both bold artistically and popular with audiences. It is still an important part of the past of comic book movies. Special from Dick Tracy. More than 30 years after Dick Tracy came out, Beaty surprised everyone with a follow-up called Dick Tracy Special, Tracy Zooms In, which came out in 2023. This special wasn't a normal continuation or start over. Instead, it was a fun and lighthearted look back at the character and Beaty's long history with the series. In the movie Tracy Zooms In, Beaty played Dick Tracy and had a meta-discussion about the character's history. The special did a smart thing by recognizing that Beaty still has rights to the Dick Tracy brand. Since he bought the film rights decades ago, Beaty has gone back to the character from time to time to keep those rights, which is part of the reason for this show. Beaty's performance as Tracy in the show is self-aware and fun, by making fun of both the character and himself. Tracy Zooms In wasn't as well known in theaters as the first Dick Tracy movie, but it was a unique way for Beaty to keep the character alive and show how much he loved playing the part. The special reminded us of how close he was to Dick Tracy and showed that he could still laugh about his work after all these years. There are no rules. Rules Don't Apply was Warren Beatty's first movie in 15 years after a break. When it came out in 2016, the movie was a big deal, both because it had been a long time since Beatty's last project and because he directed, produced, and played the lead part. He hadn't been in a movie since Bulworth in 1998, so both fans and reviewers were excited to see what he had to offer after so long. The movie is about Howard Hughes, the strange millionaire and aviator, and it mostly shows his later years. It was clear that Beaty loved working on this project. He had been interested in Hughes for a long time, and Rules Don't Apply gave him a chance to learn more about Hughes' complicated personality. The movie doesn't just focus on Hughes, though. It also has a love story between two made-up characters, Lily Collins as an aspiring actor and Alden Ehrenreich as her ambitious driver. Hughes is portrayed by Beaty as a man who is unreliable and mysterious. He is in charge of the people around him but stays out of their way. Rules Don't Apply got mixed reviews, but many people liked how bold Beaty's stories were and how willing he was to take creative risks. The movie didn't do as well at the box office as some of his other movies. Even so, it was still a big deal for Beaty. Many years ago, he had a dream of sharing a story about Hughes. Now that dream could come true. Even though it got mixed reviews, Rules Don't Apply is a great example of Beaty's skill as a director who wasn't afraid to take on difficult subjects. He has made a name for himself by making bold choices in front of and behind the camera throughout his work. Whether he's playing a real person like John Reed in Reds or Howard Hughes in Rules Don't Apply, Beaty always sticks to telling stories that interest him no matter what the latest movie trends are. This movie especially shows how ready he was to try new things and follow his own creative vision, even though Hollywood today tends to go for safer bets. Personal life. After meeting on the set of Bugsy in 1991, Warren Beatty and Annette Bening fell in love. Beatty played the notorious gangster Bugsy Siegel, and Bening played his girlfriend Virginia Hill. There was no denying how well they got along on screen, and it was soon clear that they were also having a great time off screen. It was well known at the time that Beaty had dated a number of famous women, but had never been married. Many people thought he would never get married, but meeting Bening seemed to change everything. They started dating while they were making Bugsy, and Beaty has talked a lot about how deeply he fell in love with Bening from the start. They were already in love by the time Bugsy came out later that same year. They got married in 1992, which was a big moment in Beaty's life. He had a history of not wanting to make commitments, but his bond with Bening was different. Their relationship was one of the most admired in Hollywood, known for being stable and full of real love. They have raised 4 kids together and have been able to keep a strong relationship for a long time, which isn't always easy in their line of work. Their relationship stands out because both of them have well-known jobs and because they have mostly kept their personal lives out of the public eye. Beaty and Bening have been married for decades, which is very unusual in Hollywood. They are seen as one of the most respected pairs in the business. Family life. There is one thing that Warren Beatty and Annette Bening have always been sure of. Family is more important to them than fame. Both of them are big names in Hollywood, but they work hard to keep their private lives, especially those of their children, out of the public eye. Along with Bening, Beaty has 4 children. From the start, the couple wanted to give their kids a normal childhood, away from the attention that usually comes with being a famous family. This was a big change for Beaty, who had been in the news for years because of his famous relationships. It was important to him and Bening to make their home life solid and private once they had a child. Their family life was pretty private. They didn't talk about it much in interviews or when they were out in public with their kids. Given how well known they were, this wasn't always easy, but they wanted to keep their kids safe from the stresses of growing up in the public eye. It's important to both Beaty and Bening that they teach their kids strong ideals and let them find their own ways in life. Over the years, their kids have grown up mostly out of the public eye, which doesn't happen very often in Hollywood. People who had worked with him said they liked and respected him as a person as well as an artist. Fans felt sad when they learned that the lively character they had loved on screen was having major health problems. Alzheimer's disease gets worse over time and makes it hard to remember things and think clearly. Beaty has been in the public eye for most of his life, so this news is especially hard for him. It can have an effect on more than just the person who has it. A lot of people who knew him talked about the fun times they had together and how smart and funny he was. As they thought about how sick he really was, these images became even more important to them. The news had an effect on more than just Beaty's fans who grew up watching his movies. Many people were sad about the death of a man who had made many people happy and taught them new things. Talking about his health led to talks about how important it is to spread information about Alzheimer's disease and help people who have it. There has been a flood of love and support for Beaty since he was told he has cancer. Many of his friends and family have told him they will be there for him during this tough time. The tough trip serves as a reminder of Beaty's important legacy and the love people have for him in both his personal and professional life. What Annette Bening did. Annette Bening has taken on the job of Warren Beatty's main caregiver as he deals with his Alzheimer's disease. This is a very important and difficult job. Bening has made it her mission to help her husband get through this tough time by focusing on his wants and health. She has made it her top goal to make him feel safe and cared for, which shows how much she loves and cares for him. Being a parent can be very hard on you. Bening has been heartbroken as he has seen Warren lose his memories and change over time. She thinks about what a lively and talented man he was a lot, and it hurts to see those memories fade. This loss isn't just memories that are getting fuzzy. It's about seeing how the person she fell in love with changes over time. The emotional weight of this experience as she tries to stay strong through the ups and downs of his health. Bening is having a hard time, but it affects the whole family. Warren and she were married for more than 30 years. It has been very hard for her to slowly lose the man she loves. She has to deal with the fact that his memory and attitude are getting worse every day. There are times when things are clear and times when they are not. It's hard for Bening to let go of the moments they've made together. Warren's sickness has an effect on their children as well. They are seeing their dad change, which can be hard and confusing for them. Bening has to help them understand what's going on and make sure they feel encouraged, which is not easy. The family needs to work through this new situation as a unit. That can sometimes lead to tough choices and conversations. As a babysitter, Bening also has to make tough decisions every day. Besides her duties at home, she also has to take care of her own mental needs and health. This can include making choices about his care, making sure he keeps all of his medical visits, and making sure he has the best quality of life possible. She stays a constant presence through it all. Doing everything she can to love and help you through this tough journey. Her loyalty to Warren and their family shows how close they are and how determined they are to get through the challenges of Alzheimer's together. As Warren Beatty fights Alzheimer's disease, Annette Bening has shown amazing strength and toughness. In everything she does and every choice she makes, her love for him shines through. Bening knows how important it is to be there for Warren as more than just a partner. He wants to be his champion and caregiver. She will do everything she can to make him feel loved and cared for, even on the worst days. Bening has gone out of her way to make Warren feel at ease wherever she is. She knows that habit is important for people with Alzheimer's, so she works to make sure that their lives stay normal. This means giving him emotional support, letting him do things he likes, and making sure he stays close to people he knows. Her commitment makes him feel safe and cared for, which is very important for his health. Bening fights for Warren's honor the whole way through. She thinks that he should be treated with kindness and care, even if his memory is getting worse. She talks out about how important it is to keep his honor, making sure he is seen for who he is and not just a patient. For Bening to stick to this concept shows how much she loves Warren and wants to honor the time they spent together. Being able to handle the emotional challenges of care for someone with Alzheimer's is another sign of Bening's strength. She knows there will be days when she feels sad and angry, but she keeps her mind on the love they share. Being steady not only helps her, but it also gives Warren and their family a sense of security. Bening has also been honest about what it's like to have Alzheimer's, which has helped bring more attention to the disease and the problems that come with it. She hopes that by telling their story, other people will understand what it's like for families to deal with memory. Her work as an advocate comes from her deep concern for other people who may be going through similar problems, making people aware of Alzheimer's. It's clear that Annette Bening wants to make people more aware of Alzheimer's disease. Since Warren Beatty was diagnosed, she has known how important it is to talk about the problems that come with having this disease. Bening has used her public stage to share their story, which has helped bring attention to how Alzheimer's affects not only the person who has it, but also their family and friends. Bening thinks that a lot of people might not fully understand what it's like to have Alzheimer's. She wants to teach people about the truth about the disease by being open about her experiences as a guardian. She talks about their emotional struggles and the problems they face every day, which helps to make the numbers and stories that are often told in the media more real. People are more likely to talk about their own problems because she is honest. Getting rid of the shame that surrounds dementia. One of Bening's key goals is to give families going through similar problems hope. They need to know they're not alone. Through her work as an advocate, she stresses how important it is to have both personal and community-based support systems. Bening has talked about how important it is for parents to get help and talk about how they feel. By encouraging people to talk, she hopes to build a group where people with Alzheimer's can understand and help each other. Bening has also taken part in a number of events and campaigns that have raised money for Alzheimer's care and study. She has worked for groups that try to find new ways to treat the sickness and help families who are dealing with it. She helps bring attention to these causes by giving her time and words, which could mean more money and attention for studies into Alzheimer's. Bening also talks a lot about how important it is to teach people more about Alzheimer's. She thinks that more people will be kind and helpful to those who are sick if they know more about the signs and how the illness gets worse. Bening says that early detection and education can make the lives of both patients and caregivers a lot better. Annette Bening's work to raise knowledge about Alzheimer's is based on her own experience with the disease. She uses her words to teach people, give them hope, and get them to take action. She is making a difference for families going through similar problems by making them feel seen and understood in their battles. A Hollywood star. Warren Beatty is a Hollywood icon for a lot of different reasons. The movie business will always remember how important he was as an actor, director, and producer. Beatty has been an actor for many years and has been in many famous movies. He has also changed the way movies tell stories. Beatty is known for being able to play complicated roles on stage. He often played parts that went against what society thought was right. Movies like Bonnie and Clyde showed how good he was at giving flawed but interesting characters depth and complexity. His acts have been praised by critics and have won him many awards, such as Oscars and Golden Globes. It was Beatty's skill at making people feel what his characters felt that set him apart from other skilled actors. Beatty did a lot of important work as a director and producer in addition to starring. His first movie as a director, Heaven Can Wait, did well at the box office and showed how skilled he is behind the camera. He kept making movies like Reds, which was nominated for 10 Academy Awards. This movie showed how much he cared about telling important stories, especially ones with political and historical themes. As a producer, Beatty was very important in making sure that the movies he worked on met high standards of creativity and quality. It's really just tasty. Mrs. Trillinger, don't you agree? Yes, it tastes great? Thanks. Beatty's impact goes beyond the projects he works on alone. He was a filmmaker from a group that began.